Why are Italian knockoff movies so damn fun? Well, if you're a science fiction fan or a horror fan, you've probably already encountered Italian knockoffs, like copies of Mad Max or James Bond copies, Star Wars copies. And our movie today is part of the Jaws cycle of Italian knockoffs, and it's probably, quite possibly at least, the most perfect representation of what makes those movies so endearing and so, just so fun to watch. That movie is Tentacles from 1977. Officially directed by Oliver Hellman, but his real name is Ovidio G. Assonitis. He was the guy who was hired to take over from James Cameron for Piranha 2 when Cameron was fired from that movie. So what are the three qualities that make an Italian knockoff movie so much fun? Like there's an equilibrium that needs to be in place for the true charm to fully operate. And those three qualities are, one, the movie needs to be a clear knockoff. Like, for instance, Star Crash is a very transparent knockoff of Star Wars, along with Harryhausen movies and many other movies. But you have to see the knockoff. It's a ripoff. You're seeing the crass commercialism. But also at the same time, second quality, it needs to be infused with style and a form of crazy creativity, which all the Italian knockoff movies share. Even like the most dire, cheap ones have something in them. And the last quality is a sense of infectious charm, the infectious charm of childish incompetence. So it needs to be, like a perfect marriage of genius and incompetence, of crass commercialism and true artistic vision, of integrity and stupidity. So that impossible alchemical reconciliation constitutes the philosophical stone, the pure cinematic gold, which we're all looking for in the Italian knockoff. So what are we going to do today? We're going to see if and how our magnus opus, or a Tentacoli, fulfills these three categories. And let's start right away with the knockoff aspect. Some Italian knockoffs are very remote from their source material. I'm thinking of Endgame by Joe D'Amato, a somewhat Escape from New York, copy, which I like a lot. I've seen many times with George Eastman, but it's surfing the wave, of the Mad Max, subgenre. But it's not really a knockoff per se. Whereas here, the Tentacoli is truly, without a doubt, a Jaws copy. And why is this knockoff aspect so important and part of the charm? Because these movies were mostly made either before VHS or as VHS was just starting. And back in those days, if you wanted to relive a significant scene, a memorable scene from one of your favorite movies, either wait until it was shown on cable television or something like that, or you went to see a knockoff. It was simpler to remake the movie. It was a legitimate form of larceny, if you like. So here, there are two main moments where you truly feel that, this is definitely a Jaws knockoff. So first of all, there's the big local party, right? So in Jaws, the shark eventually attacks, the beach, and there's a big panic. But so here, the equivalent of that is a huge boat race. It's not a shot-for-shot recreation, but you instantly recognize that, okay, I'm watching the equivalent of that scene. And this is even more pronounced in the drunken macho remembrance scene on board. So quite possibly the best scene in Jaws is when Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss they're drunk and they're sharing scars and war memories and there's a sense of one-upmanship or who will be the most macho character, and at the same time it's very vulnerable. There's a sense of boyish vulnerability. It's a very, very strong moment in the movie. So here it's not quite as strong, but obviously because it's just a coffee. But when you see it, you see the two guys in the movie still, and it's okay. That was a good sequence in Jaws. So they recreate it here, and you recognize that you're watching that scene once again. But this will bring me, to my second point, which is they're knocking off Jaws, and it's clear and it's transparent. But at the same time, the movie is surprisingly original with what it's actually doing with the material. So essentially, you get a sense that they're giving you just enough to make you understand that, you are watching a Jaws ripoff, and that's what you came for, and we're giving it to you. But they give you just enough to let you appreciate that now they will subvert your expectations. So one of the clearest examples of this is actually the music, like the soundtrack, which is really, really good. It's very simple, but it's extremely effective. And what's odd about it is that it sounds more like what are they called? Like it sounds like the soundtrack of a police movie, like the Italian poliziotteschi movies. Soundtrack which sounds a lot actually like the Untouchables soundtrack, which was done by Morricone, who reused he used a thing that was very reminiscent of 1970s Jean-Paul Belmondo movie, actually, called Peur sur la ville, which is a tremendous serial killer movie. I highly recommend. It's a very good movie. Kind of like a cross between The French Connection and an Argento movie, essentially. It's really a good movie. And so like this driving score, which is very, it feels like you're like a scene from The Untouchables, except it's a squid or a giant octopus eating villagers. It's very effective. And generally speaking, like the director really puts a lot of effort in what he's doing. There's like a pretty long sequence at the beginning where the monster is attacking various people, and the director doesn't go for the usual horror scene, thrills or jump scares. It's more like a suspense movie with very, innovative and sometimes innovative in a way that has aged a lot, but still like very audacious montage, like editing sequences. There's a sequence, for instance, where a mother is having a conversation with a friend by the beach, and her baby is about to be kidnapped by the squid, essentially. So you see it coming, which is the essence of suspense, that the dire event is about to happen, but you see it happening, but it's very, very, very effective. Like you see it coming, but you don't see it happening. So it's very well done. It's very successful. There are many, little scenes like that at the beginning of the movie. So all in all, it's very imaginative. I mentioned the boat sequence. I was very impressed by that because it actually made me feel more like I was watching The Burning, like the slasher movie, than Jaws. And by that I mean that I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's a very famous attack sequence in The Burning, which is one of the better, by far one of the better slasher movies of the 80s, where there's this big group of teenagers, and there's like 20 of them, and you tell yourself, there's no way the killer, the psycho killer, is going to attack the teenager. Is going to wait until until they're alone, right? Which is the standard fare for a slasher movie, and that's not quite the direction the movie takes. A very memorable sequence. And the superlative burning. So, and you have something comparable here, which I did not see coming, and which really impressed me. I thought it was really, effective. The movie seems to have a pretty big budget, all in all. Though, see my following point in a minute. But still, you feel like there was a relatively large, decent budget. There are lots of background players, and as I said, the race has many boats, and so forth and so forth. There are plenty of underwater sequences also, which are actually really impressive. They look great. So all these things, there are other qualities, I'm not mentioning all of them, but I watched this movie, and pretty early on, I told myself, yeah, this guy, he put in the effort. He didn't need to put so much effort in a squid, an octopus-based Jaws copy. That being said, yeah, it's really good, a lot better than you would expect, but it's still a cheap Italian movie. The most obvious telltale sign is the countless Jess Franco style zooms. The movie is chock full of those dramatic 70s zooms, which saves a lot of money on camera setups. So it's a good way to make a budget on a movie on the cheap. But it looks cheap. It's not quite effective. So there's that. But there's also, let's talk about the cast here. So, a big part of the charm of the Italian knockoff movie is that quite often you'll see, American actors either as they're beginning their careers or more often ending it. Like John Saxon appears in a lot of those movies, and of course John Saxon is truly wonderful in everything he's in. But here we have actors who you'll recognize and who are big enough names to give you the sense that you're watching almost like the Grand Inferno, or Towering Inferno, or a movie like that, right? But only a lot cheaper. So our actors here, we have John Huston, who is in quite a few of those movies. Always wears the same shirt. He's always dressed the same, even when he's in ape makeup in one of the Planet of the Apes movies. He still looks like he's wearing the same outfit. Anyway, he's wearing that outfit here, John Huston. He's paired with Shelley Winters. They both played together later on in The Visitor. Another cheap semi-Italian knockoff topic for another day. Shelley Winters, I think she actually played the mother in Lolita. Anyway, she also gives off that she's a recognizable name, but she's not giving her Kubrick level performance. I'll put it that way. Henry Fonda, he had just had a heart attack or something. I think anyway, he's barely moving in this movie. I love Henry Fonda, like everybody, but he's not very good. He literally phones in his performance. He's always talking on the phone. So, yeah, and Claude Akins, who's a stalwart of those movies. So essentially here, the idea is that they're all, let us say, good actors, competent actors, except they're all not good here. That's the general point here. You have a quality B-movie, lower B-movie cast where no one is really giving a good performance. So that quality of not being good is is one of the true pleasures, if you like, of the Italian movie and the Italian knockoff. And the cast is rounded out by, there's Bo Hopkins also, but a couple of Italian actors, Cesare Danova, Delia Boccardo. I don't know them. They are also not very memorable. But I mentioned this because like that wooden quality of the performance of those actors, it is part of the charm, as is the extremely tacky nature of specifically those Italian characters. So the idea is that we have a like a SeaWorld type resort with trained orcas, killer whales, and that was still during the years when we thought that the orcas liked being in captivity, which they don't. Like, they kill their trainers all the time because they hate being in captivity. Who would think? Yeah, who would have thought? But here they are. They love their trainer, and they have conversations, like real conversations. I don't remember if they have a translation machine. I think he just understands their orca language. Doesn't really matter, same difference. And the orcas play a huge role in the story. Eventually, like the last half of the movie, last part, like half hour of the movie is essentially the orcas going fisho a fisho with the pesco at pesco with the octopus. 25 minutes of underwater action between two orcas and an octopus, even a giant killer octopus. Does not a entirely engrossing conclusion make, right? It's not very effective as an ending, and again, so it's paradoxical, but it's cheesy. It doesn't work very well. Some of the, certainly like the action sequence, but the whole orca thing, I don't like to use the word like cringe-inducing because it's overused, but there is some of that. I mean, it's tacky, but that's the thing. That is exactly what you want if you're watching an Italian knockoff. You want the knockoff aspect. You want the competence and the brilliance and the creativity, which is overflowing in many of these movies and abundantly, visible in almost every frame of this. But you also need and want, for the true experience, you need the cheapo incompetent part. I mean, you need the exuberance of an enthusiastic 4-year-old who doesn't really know what's good and bad and just goes for it. So yeah, the wooden performances and the cheap special effects and all these things, that all plays into it. So Tentacles has all of it. So it's not my favorite, Italian knockoff, because as I said, I like Star Crash better. It's one of my favorite movies. I have a long list of well-loved Mad Max copies, but I have rarely, if ever, seen an Italian knockoff that had such a perfect equilibrium and such a perfectly executed, incarnation of those three pillars of the Italian knockoff. That is to say, the genius, the incompetence, and the the crass copying of what other people did. So yeah, it's just cool. It's fun. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it that much. The soundtrack is really good, and a lot of the action sequences, even though they are tacky because of the zooming and the editing, which has aged a lot. I mean, there is many of the sequences, especially that big boating sequence, but also the thing with the mother at the beginning and a few others as well. It's all very effective, and I liked it. So give it a try if you dare. Go in the waters, and yeah, that's it for today. If you want to support, I have a Patreon, so that would be greatly appreciated. Many thanks, and see you soon. Live long and prosper. Keep watching the skies. Take care.